Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, that link in there is for Kinokuniya. They're selling it online because Amazon, for some reason I've yet to work out, have decided to unpublish it and they're taking pre-orders, even though it came out in March. So who knows what's going on there? Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit from my latest book, The Only Gaijin in the Village. I suspect most people here, I know some of you, I don't know others, but I suspect most of us have been in Japan for a long time. This book is. There are a lot of memoirs about life in Japan, and most of them tend to be the 22, 23-year-old leave university, come to Japan for a year, and have the, oh my god, this is crazy kind of experience and write about them. This isn't like that. I've been here 15 years, and a few years ago, my wife and I moved out into rural Gifu, where, as the title suggests quite strongly, I am the only foreigner around here. And it's been a fun experience, and it's been a weird experience. And this book started as a series of columns that turned into something bigger. I'm aware that some of the people here were also at the Japan Writers' Conference last weekend, so I will try not to repeat myself for you, and I will read different sections. But yeah, we'll have the Q&A afterwards, so you can, if you want more details about the book and its conception and things, you can ask me there. Probably the best thing to do is just to start reading a section. One of the things my wife and I worried about when we moved out into the village is the kind of duties and responsibilities that you need to get involved in. So litter collection and going to meetings, all the chonaikai sort of stuff, and festivals, those kind of things. Luckily, this area doesn't have too many responsibilities, but it does have some. So this is about that. My first experience of the duties was the litter collection. Split into teams, the theory is that we cover a certain area picking up rubbish, man-made or acts of God, thereby bringing beauty and order to our pocket of Japan. In theory, as any economist, political leader, or parent will tell you, the gap between theory and practice is big enough to handbrake turn a double-decker bus through. Litter collection here is designated a man's job. Some jobs here are women's jobs, like cleaning the meeting hall, guarding the aforementioned garbage sites and cleaning them afterwards, and serving snacks and drinks at the meetings. Anything outdoors is a man's job. We prune trees, trim the verges with unnecessarily powerful but fun strimmers, massacre bamboo groves with home centre approved serrated machetes, and walk the streets keeping it safe from stray tissues and cigarette butts. I haven't seen this demarcation specified in writing, but it is understood. It was, therefore, with much amusement that my wife waved me off at 7 o'clock in the morning, barely raising her head from the pillow to laugh. Our team consists of me, Asai, my immediate neighbour, Goto-san, a divorced man in his 50s who lives alone, and Ishikawa-san, who has 3 happy, highly energetic, noisy young daughters and leaves for work early, returning late. I am meeting Goto for the first time. Ishikawa grunts an "Ohayo" before releasing a smoker's cough that sounds like an IED going off under a tank. Goto gives me a nod and the last 2 syllables of an "onegaishimasu." It's Sunday morning. We all work hard. None of us want to be doing this, and by the look of things, I'm not the only one who indulged in a little light refreshment the night before. Prepped in advance by Asai, I have a pair of gloves and a plastic bag. Goto has a bag sticking out of his pocket and no gloves. Asai has a pair of gloves tucked under his belt, but no bag. Ishikawa has a can of coffee and a packet of cigarettes. We set off down the street. The thing is, our area is spotless. The only people who ever come here are residents, family, or those on business delivering, fixing, or selling things. There's no through road, no one litters, anything the wind brings in from outside is immediately picked up. There are no businesses that might inadvertently cause trash. There are literally no businesses. A local ordinance stipulates that the land here can be used for residential or farmland, nothing commercial. So this is a waste of time. We walk about 50 metres down the road. I find a PET bottle cap that seems to have been embedded in the ground since the Paleocene and prise it out. We continue. Asai fills the silence by pointing out which vegetables are growing in each patch. Each patch is the same as the one before. We pass another team with similarly sullen Ohios. Are they in our area, or are we in theirs? They have empty bags as well. Asai leads us through a shortcut by the meeting hall and loops us back home. Ishikawa drops his cigarette end in his can and drops the can in the bag. We reach home. Asai goes inside and comes out with 4 cans of coffee. We sit on his wall drinking them. Him talking about the weather and the trees, us 3 silent but for slurps and sighs. Goto gives another "Mus" and disappears inside. It's 7:17 a.m. Is that it? I ask Asai. We were seen, he says. That's enough. So that was my first experience of duty. I also had another new experience that was being from Scotland was incredibly new to me, full stop. And that's this part. Moving into the countryside and becoming an amateur farmer introduced me to a new and unfamiliar concept. I found myself thinking, I know just how Samuel L. Jackson feels. Snakes. Not on a plane, but hiding in the woodpile between rocks and once in the well. Japan. People say Japan is safe. Japan is not safe. Scotland is safe. Seismically, Scotland is as active as a teenager at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Despite a dirty great fault line running through the country like a samurai's death slash, its geology snoozes deeper than if it had a chemistry test at 9 o'clock and had been up all night Snapchatting. There are no bears, no wild boar, and the only venomous snake in Scotland is the adder, so unthreatening it was named after a condescending term for a mathematician. Japan, and my garden in particular, has the mamushi, the brown and beige pit viper with the diamond-shaped head. There are other, more dangerous snakes, such as the habu, but Chubu is too cold for them. They, like the US Armed Forces, prefer the warmth of Okinawa. For this, I give thanks. I would far rather be St. Patrick, patron sainting over a land free of snakes, than Samuel L. Jackson battling them. But like Jackson, peacefully enjoying his in-flight movie and complimentary nuts, battle sought me out. Where my land ends and Asai's begins, there are a number of what can only be described as massive boulders. They were placed there by the previous owner's grandfather during a spell of Zen decorating or feng shui rearranging, and very nice they are too. Japanese gardening uses the theory of borrowed landscapes, where the garden design incorporates aspects beyond the boundary to create depth. In this instance, the boulders form a symbiotic relationship with Mount Ontake in the distance. They also harbour mamushi. The mamushi is dangerous, particularly to children, and the Asai family have 3 of them. Children, not snakes. So I decided something had to be done. I tried to capture it with the aim of relocating it far from harm, but the snake didn't seem keen on that. It had found a nice spot to rest and considered me something of an unwelcome bailiff. And so it was that, much like a Trump press conference, things quickly took a turn for the worse. Battle commenced. Nothing in my Scottish upbringing had prepared me for this moment. The closest I'd come to confronting nature head-on had been frantically sweeping a mouse out of the kitchen of an Edinburgh flat like a crazed Olympic curler. The closest I'd come to snakebite was in the student union. I donned my armour, Wellington boots and oven gloves, and selected a weapon. In the junkin of life, it turns out shovel beats snake. I felt horrible, but I'd have felt worse if one of the children had died of a snake bite. In the bonfire, I gave it a funeral fit for a Viking chief, then texted my wife. I just killed a mamushi. What did you do with it? I cremated it. My dad's going to be angry. What? Had I committed some enormous faux pas? Was there some Shinto cleansing ritual that needed to be performed? Some Buddhist rite that would make amends for the murder I had committed? My father-in-law never struck me as a particularly religious or spiritual man, but maybe I had underestimated him. Racked with guilt and more than a little put out that my bravery in selflessly putting myself between harm and the Asai children had gone unremarked, I stoked the fire, being far more careful when grabbing wood off the pile than I had been, and waited to get told off. Sure enough, the text wasn't long in coming. You killed a mamushi. Do you still have the body? No, I burned it. Next time, call me. Why? What you do is, you skin it, then you cook it over the fire. It's delicious, particularly the tail. It goes really well with some sake. All right, I will stop there. So thank you all for listening.